Hey guys, welcome back to my Unsung Videogames mini-series. Last time in part 1 I did Lords of Thunder, Eve of Extinction, and of course Legend of Dragoon. I'm going to be trying to do 3 games per part, so a total of 15 games. This is part 2, let's get started. Right off the start we are going to do Road Rash for Genesis. I actually have all 3 games in the trilogy, but out of all the games, it seems like Road Rash 1 was the one that got the least attention. 2 and 3 are both pretty well known, but you know, maybe it's just me, but it seems like the first Road Rash got ripped off. Excellent game, I mean, this was the game that started it all for Road Rash. They had, I believe, 16 or so bikers in this game. You can only pick so many. You can only be the guy you picked, so almost dropped it. There was 5 courses you could go through. It was an excellent game. You could punch or kick the opponents off their bikes, which, you know, believe it or not, at that time was a very new concept. So this game was a pioneer of sorts. This came out in 1991, so this game is almost 20 years old. So think about that. 20 years ago, Motorcycle Combat was out on Sega Genesis, and it was out for blood, too. The soundtrack to this game, it's comical, but it is excellent. It sounds like a bunch of MIDI farts. That's what it sounds like. Like, if you know what MIDI sounds like, then you know what I mean. Like, you know what I mean? It sounds like a bunch of different pitched farts. But, it fits the game excellent. It's an excellent soundtrack. I mean, when you're cruising down the highway or something, yeah, you can put on the Road Rash soundtrack, and it fits it. It's actually, you actually make nothing of it. The AI is ruthless in some courses, and other courses are very forgiving. So, you know, the classic racing game kind of deal, where the AI, depending on the course, depends on their difficulty. Not a whole lot more to say about Road Rash. It's an excellent game. You can probably get it for like $1 if you see it. And this is again for Sega Genesis, made by Electronic Arts. When I'm not sure if they're in business anymore. If they are, I haven't heard about them in a while. They made a lot of games I like. Soviet Strike, Nuclear Strike, Road Rash 1, 2, and 3. I mean, you can't go wrong with an Electronic Arts game. So really, I recommend this game all the way. If you see it in the store or on the shelf or in the used game bin or the bargain bin, grab it out and take it home and play it. It's an interesting game, it's an excellent game, and it'll bring you hours of fun. So this is Road Rash 1 for Genesis. Oh, there's the camera, there it is. 1991, made by Electronic Arts. Road Rash. Definitely an unsung video game. You know, next I figured I'd put in a PS1 game again. I have a lot of PS1 games. I tend to like PS1. It's probably my favorite system out there. This is ESPN Extreme Games, also known as One Extreme when it was released. This is the original rough copy right here. ESPN Extreme Games. This was kind of the starter in the series for 1 Extreme, 2 Extreme, and finally 3 Extreme, which met its demise. But this game had 4 different sports you could do. You could bike, you could rollerblade, you could skateboard, or you could street luge. And it was very diverse. There was, let me think, there was 5 or 6 courses you could go through. There was San Francisco, Utah, South America, Italy, and there was one more. I don't know, but there was one more course. I believe there was a bonus course too, a cash course. But that was a cool idea they did in the game. This game was very fun when I first played it. This was one of my first games I got for PlayStation. And in fact, it was one of the first games to ever come out for PlayStation as early as 1995. This is actually the San Francisco track to 1 Extreme, or ESPN Extreme Games. And see, it's very interesting. Very rockin' for a soundtrack for that time in '95. And it's not Lords of Thunder, but it's there. I mean, it's definitely a good racing tune, you know? So that's one thing games lack today that One Extreme has, that Lords of Thunder had, that Jetmoto and Twisted Metal both had. Great soundtracks that made the person playing the game, the consumer, actually want to keep playing that game because the soundtrack is great. I mean, no offense guys, but I don't want to hear Rob Zombie when I'm playing a game. That ruins a game for me. I don't want to hear, like, Cypress Hill when I'm playing Twisted Metal. I mean, come on now. You want to hear Carnage. Like, you want to hear Chuck Myers hitting that whammy bar or something. And this game has a perfectly themed soundtrack for its game. Individual soundtracks, of course, used on nothing but this game. And that's what games are missing today, that really turns me off to video games. Soundtracks, they're awful. So, sorry guys, I'm sorry if you disagree with me, but that's just the way I feel about soundtracks in video games today. They're terrible. This game, like I said, great soundtrack, great control scheme. The graphics for 95, they were stunning. I mean, if you showed this game to your friend in 95, you could have him over your house, you know, you're watching, you know, the Extreme Games on ESPN, and, you know, the X Games, of course, it's called Extreme Games, it's a long name. But you're watching the X Games on TV, and you pop this in your PlayStation, and the graphics, you're like, whoa! Kind of like the Sega CD commercial when he's blown back. You know what I'm talking about. But, excellent game. I couldn't recommend any higher. Please check it out if you see it on the shelves. Again, hours of fun, and an unsung video game for sure. This is ESPN Extreme Games for PlayStation 1. And as my third installment to this part 2 of the series, none other than 13 for PlayStation 2. This game is excellent. This is my all-time favorite first-person shooter. I mean, I like Doom. I mean, Doom is great. But this game, I like it more than Doom. I mean, yeah, call me nuts. If you haven't played 13, which you probably haven't, then really, you gotta play this game to believe how much fun it is. It's very challenging. I'll tell you, it's probably one of the hardest games that I've played for first-person shooter-wise, because I think there's one difficulty mode, and that's just hard. That's all there is. They don't even state it, but it's just hard. And also, this was made in 2003 by Ubisoft. You might know them, they were the guys who made Splinter Cell. Yep, same company. And this came out only, I think, 1 year after the first Splinter Cell. Splinter Cell, again, an excellent series, but that's a very different genre. This is 13. And, very deep storyline. This is probably one of the longest PS2 games I've ever played. Especially for a first-person shooter. You know, normally they're not that long. They normally have like maybe 10 levels and then the end of the game or something. Like Halo 2 was a very long game. Halo 1, you know, not very long games. The Halo series tend to be rather short. This game is ridiculous. There's 32 levels. 32 levels in a first-person shooter game. And talk about ruthless AI. Oh yeah, you can die from just a couple shots. I mean, it's just ridiculous in some parts of this game. The bosses, they're so overvamped that you gotta know what you're doing in order to beat that boss. The final boss, he is nuts. He took me like an hour to beat. I'd compare him to Dracula on Castlevania, up there with that difficulty. Of course, this is a lot. Actually, he's harder because this game is more complex. There's more weapons. This is ridiculous. This game it's so fun. I mean, just like some levels you're going through a chapel, other levels you're going through a garden, you're going through an abandoned warehouse. I mean, it's just on top of a roof, shooting down a helicopter. I mean, it's just by being chased by guys with flaming crossbows that look like they're in the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, yeah, they have KKK members in this game. So, it's pretty ridiculous. It's an awesome game. I recommend it 100% of the way, and I got this game for a whopping $3 with a case and a manual, and mint condition. So, I mean, it's readily available to you. Made by Ubisoft again. They make excellent games, challenging games. Check it out, guys. This is probably one of the most unsung games that I can think of that never got its popularity. This is 13 for PlayStation 2. And with that, we are going to wrap up part 2. So I'll see you in part 3. Thanks for watching.